This is geometry review for your quarterfinal lessons 1 through 20, part 2. It's actually fairly convenient that you guys picked number 15 as your most desired question because, actually, I don't know. We didn't get to it on the other. So this is picking up where the other class kind of left off. In the figure below, EF is parallel to GH. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and put some parallel markers there. CD is parallel to GH, so I'm going to put a little right angle marker there. AB is parallel to GH, so we have that guy right there. What is the relationship between CD and EF? We want to know what's the relationship between this line and this line. They're perpendicular to each other. And one of the, I don't think it asks why, but essentially what we're saying is that if two lines are, let's see, I'm going to put this. We have two lines that are parallel, right? All right, so if two parallel lines are perpendicular, let's see, to the same line, or let's say a line is perpendicular to two parallel lines, then they're going to be perpendicular to it. Then I'm trying to think of the correct way to put this, but yes, they're going to be perpendicular to each other. This is going to be true right here. Okay. Because what I have is I've got a transversal. So whenever a line intersects two parallel lines, it's going to intersect both those lines the same way. So because CD is perpendicular to GH and GH is parallel to EF, EF is going to be perpendicular to CD. Does that make sense? I probably did a real awful job of trying to put that into words, but hopefully we understand that. Okay, do we see what they were looking for now? It should help you to either redraw the picture and put in the tick marks so that we see, okay, what exactly is going on and what am I looking for? Okay, all right. All right, so that was 15. From there, let's look at question number 8. Question number 8, right here. Name 3 angles in the diagram. Okay, somebody name me one angle. Okay, Idali? BAC, is that what you said? Okay, so we're going to say angle BAC. Good. Zach? Okay, angle CAD. All right, there should be one more. Kylie? Angle BAD. Very good. Those will work. Okay. Now, we could have labeled angle BAD as DAB. Okay. Could do angle BAC as angle CAB. Right, and you could do angle CAD as angle DAC. The only thing that matters is that we're keeping A as the vertex for all 3 of them. Okay? All right. Any questions about that? All right, number 10. Let's see. Number 10. Identify the hypothesis and the conclusion of the conditional statement. Anybody want to put their hat in the ring on this one? How do I identify a hypothesis? Where does it show up in a conditional statement? It shows up after what? Blake? After what? After the word if, and when does it stop? Before the comma. Okay? So what do I have after the word if and before the comma here? 3x plus 7 equals 22 is my hypothesis. All right, how do I identify the conclusion in a conditional statement? After the word then and before the period. Okay? So what do I have after the word then and before the period? X equals 5 is my conclusion. Okay? Is that understandable for us? Just that. We do not include the words if or then. Okay? All right. Let's see. After number 10 is number 12. Write the equation of the line that has a slope of -2 and passes through -4, -5. There's a couple of different ways to do this, but By far the easiest one is if you know the point-slope form of the equation. How many of us are familiar with the point-slope form? Okay, just a couple of us. Okay, point-slope formula, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and write it above 12 here, is what, Zach? What's point-slope formula? Y minus y1, okay, and that represents, it's going to represent coordinates here, equals, okay, m, parentheses, x minus x1, okay? So I put my slope, all right, in for m, I plug my -4, -5 in for my x and y. So I'm able to rewrite the equation as y minus, and I have to have that minus there. So even if the y coordinate is negative, I'm still going to have a minus there. So I'm just going to wind up with 2, right? So I do y minus what? -5 equals, what slope am I using? -2 parentheses, so we're going to end up distributing x minus what? -4. Okay? So if y minus -5 equals -2 times x minus -4. Now, if you have more paper than what I have to work with, because I don't have a lot of empty space here, right, you would go ahead and you're going to show these as addition, right? Simplify that. Distribute your -2. So we should get y plus 5 equals, let's go ahead and distribute that -2. -2x plus -8, or could we just write -8? Now what do I want to do? Subtract 5 from -8, so we're subtracting on both sides. So I get y equals -2x minus 13, and that's the equation of the line that goes through those 2 points and has that slope. Okay, are we familiar with that? Now there is another way to do that where basically what I would do is go ahead and write the y equals mx plus b form of the equation, plug in -2 for the m, and plug in my x and y, which I have, and solve for b. Once I have b solved, go ahead and plug that back into my y equals mx plus b equation. Does that make sense? Right, you'd get the same thing. I like this way a little bit better because I'm not having to revert back, you know, and plug back into an earlier equation. All right. Let's see. So that was 12. Let's look at number 13. On the number line below, what is the midpoint of A and B? Let's be less concerned with this particular question and more concerned with how we would find it. Okay. All right. So how do I find a midpoint on a number line? What do you think? Now, I mean, you can tell by looking at it that the answer is 3, correct? Okay, but what if we have a much bigger number line and there's halves and things like that in there? Emily? A plus B. Okay, A plus B divided by 2. All right, so you're getting 2 plus 4 divided by 2. Right, so you've got 6 divided by 2 is 3. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. And that should work even with negative numbers, right? Okay. So my first point plus my second point divided by 2. All right, that's 13. Let's get over to number 20. Okay. Determine the midpoint of C on the line segment AB. So they've given me -1.8, 2.5. B is -8.6, 5.1. All right, the first thing that we want to know is, what is the midpoint formula? Okay, somebody besides Zach. Zach's done a good job of answering some questions. All right, Emily just answered one. Kylie, what is the midpoint formula? Midpoint formula. So by definition, you started with D equals, meaning that you're about to start off with the distance formula. Okay, Blake? Nope. You're going to do the exact same thing she just did. The midpoint formula. Emily? x1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2. That's That's what we want right there. And I have seen that show up as a mistake that people have made on tests, is substituting the distance formula for the midpoint formula, right? We don't want to do that. Okay? So at this point, we want to substitute in. So what's x sub 1? Negative 1.8. What's x sub 2? Plus negative 8.6. So we'll add that up and divide by 2. Let's see. That's going to be like negative 10.4. Is that right? Negative 10.4 divided by 2 should be what? Negative 5.2. Is that right? Okay, negative 5.2. Just kind of trying to do that off the top of my head. What is y sub 1? 2.5 plus what? 5.1 divided by 2. 2.5 plus 5.1. It looks like it's going to be like 7.6 divided by 2. 3.6. 3.8. Okay. So we're going to set it back up as a coordinate pair, right? Okay, questions about that? Okay, and we covered a couple of distance formula questions in the other video, so if you're not sure about the distance formula, definitely go back. I think that's one of the very first questions we covered. All right, so that was number 20. Let's look at 21. Okay, 21, prove that lines M and N are parallel. What they're looking for is should be looking for the theorem or postulate. Actually, this is going to be a little bit beyond that, though. So there's a number of different ways to do this. For instance, I know that this angle here, oh man, that's a mess. I'll explain why it's a mess. It's because 120 degrees is clearly obtuse, but they put it in an acute position, so you can't go based upon appearances. But I know 120 and 5 are what? What do they form? They're supplementary, right? They form a linear pair, right? So 120 plus angle 5 equals 180, right? So if I want to know what angle 5 was, what would I do? Subtract 120 from both sides. So angle 5 equals what? 60 degrees. So once I know that this is 60 degrees, do I know that lines M and N are parallel? Yes, I do. Can anybody tell me why? You could have. Yeah, you could have. But I have enough information right now to show that what's the relationship between angle 5 and the 60-degree angle that was already given to me? They're corresponding angles, right? They're corresponding angles. So what theorem or postulate would I write down to show that these two things are parallel? Remember, if I don't know that the lines are parallel, then I have to have what word as the beginning of my theorem or postulate? What is it? Converse. So through the converse of what? Of the corresponding angles postulate. Right? There might be a different kind of way that the answer key went about it, but this gets to the equivalent point of view, okay, the equivalent position. Does this make sense to us? Right? We could have done something else. We could have done a number of different things to get where we wanted to be, but that's where I would have gone with that. So lesson 12 is a big deal, right? Corresponding angles, alternate interior, alternate exterior, same side interior, all those types of things back in lesson 12 are really, really important for you to know. So if I was going to spend some time someplace, right, I'd spend some time looking at lesson 12. The video, the notes, the textbook, anything like that that's going to help me remember some of these things. Question number 19. 19. All right, determine a midpoint of the line segment. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video. You guys already have the midpoint formula, so I'm going to pause it. You guys are going to work out the question. I want to see how many of you can get this right. So I'm curious now at this point. Let's see. Looking at the answer here, I'll try to scroll back up to the question 19. All right. What kinds of answers did we get? Jarrett, what was your answer? Okay. All right. Jackman, what did you get? 2.5 and what? Negative 5.5. Did anybody get anything different than that? Nobody got anything different? Okay. Let's take a quick look and see. 19. So yeah, there were 2 reviews, Jarrett, that I sent, and I told you to kind of look at review B. Okay. So 2.5 and negative 5.5 is correct. So I'm going to trust that at this point we understand the midpoint formula, right? Okay. Let's see, 22. Let's look at 22. Get rid of that. Okay. It says classify and calculate its perimeter. Okay. Let's see. It gives me a whole list of A, B, C, D, and E things to do. It starts off with find YZ. How am I going to find YZ? What is YZ to that triangle? The hypotenuse. Okay. All right. Let's see. Blake, tell me how to find the hypotenuse with these numbers. The Pythagorean theorem? Okay. All right. Pythagorean theorem there. Okay, come on. What do you got?
It'd be 16 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared.
Okay, 16 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. 16 squared is 1/6. What's that? 256. Okay, 256 plus 144, correct? Okay. What's 256 plus 144? 400. What do we do with it once we've got that? Square root. Okay, so that should be what? 20. All right, so we know YZ is 20. Okay, we can erase this. Okay, classify triangle XYZ by its sides. By its sides. What 3 words do we use to classify a triangle by its sides? Isosceles, equilateral, scalene. All right, what is this? Isosceles, somebody said. What is the definition of isosceles, Jarrett? So you picked one of the 3. Okay, can anybody tell me what the definition of isosceles is? Oh, you said isosceles. Oh, I'm sorry. Zach, can you tell me what the definition of isosceles? Okay, which 2 sides on this triangle are congruent? It looks like, right? How would I know if they were congruent? They'd have the same measure. Does 12 look like 16? 12 and 16, those are equal things. I can substitute them for each other. Oh, okay. So your definition is correct, but your answer is obviously wrong. It's not isosceles. What is this triangle, Kylie? Scalene, because none of the sides are equal to each other, correct? All right, so by its sides, scalene, our justification is none of the sides are equal to each other, right? All right, is this an acute triangle? No, because what's our justification there? Because it's a right triangle because it has a right angle, right? All right, perimeter. How do I find the perimeter of a triangle, Omar? Add up all the sides. So 20 plus 16 plus 12. 20 and 16 is 36. 36 and 12 is 48 centimeters. All right, and how do I find the area of a triangle, Ronnie? Your name's Ronnie, right? How do you find the area of a triangle? Any triangle. All triangles. Area equals. No. Area and perimeter are 2 different things. How do I find the area of a triangle? All right, so you're going to want to answer this. You're going to want to listen to this answer really, really closely, right? And probably write this down. Edolly? base times height divided by 2. All right. Ronnie, can you give me a number that might represent the base of this triangle? Okay, so we can use 12 as a base. That's fine. What would be the height of the triangle? What would you use for that? 16. 12 times 16 divided by 2, right? All right, so can you tell me what 12 times 16 divided by 2 is? I'm going to guess 84. No? No? Okay, it's way off. 192. Okay. Oh, divided by 2. What's 192 divided by 2? 96. 96 centimeters squared. Okay. All right, so you need to know how to find the area of a triangle, right? Perimeter, all that kind of good stuff. Hopefully we understand that question. All right, so at this point, like that stopped us with 22. Do we want to pick up any other of those singles, or do you want the rest of this time to study for your test? Going once, going twice. I can go back and look at some of the singles. All right, what was after 22? We would go back up to cover 2 and 3. Do we want to look at 2, 3? Yes or no? Okay. All right, so we would look at 2, 3, 11, 14. 2, 3, 11, 14 would be in that order. Okay, 2. What is the intersection of AB and MY? Just because you're looking and you see MY doesn't mean that the line doesn't continue. Okay? And AB, of course, cuts across. So the intersection of two lines is a point in this case. Okay, so point in. All right, that's what we want there. 2, 3. A right triangle has a hypotenuse of 65 inches. One leg measures 60 inches. What is the length of the third leg in inches? This is simply the Pythagorean theorem, except we're solving for one of the legs, right? So setting that up, I'd get 60 squared plus b squared equals 65 squared, right? Okay, can you guys solve that from there? 60 squared, I think, is 3,600 plus b squared, 1,225, 4,225. We want to subtract 3,600 from that. So b squared equals what? 625. Okay, what's the square root of 625? What's that? 25. Okay, so the other leg is 25 inches, because it is a word problem. Okay, what we said 2, 3, what else? I think 11 was one of them, right? 11. 11. All right, good. Point F lies on EG. Between E and G, EF is 2, EG is 14. Find FG. What do I need to do with this question? Draw it. Okay. So I got points on, what are the points on either end? E and G. Okay. Is F the midpoint? No, it's just somewhere in there, right? But I know EF is 2, EG is 14. So how do I find FG? Subtract. Because this is the segment addition postulate, right? EF plus FG equals FG, correct? All right, so then I can substitute. I know that 2 plus X equals 14. Subtract 2, X, or FG in this case, equals 12. Right? Draw it. All right. What else did we need to look at? Let's go back to our list. So we did 2, 3, 11, 14. Looks like our next one. 14. In the diagram, which triangle is obtuse? JLK. Yep. All right, D, E, and F are both is acute. ABC is right. Right. Should be easy enough questions here. What else is in here? 14, 17, 18. Okay, 17, 18. 17, point X and Y lie on a plane. Does the line XY lie in the plane E? Yes, it does. Um, using a postulate, I'm trying to remember the name of the postulate, you'd find it in 17. Basically, the postulate states that uh, if a line lies on a plane and the 2 points containing the line, then the 2 points containing the line lie on that same plane. Okay, you'll find it in the answer key of 17, probably a better definition for that. 18, let's see, determine the slope. Do we know our formula for slope? What is it? Okay, and that's another one that people confuse with the midpoint formula. Okay, so you'll plug in there, you'll do -3 minus 5, so you'll get -8 on top. Right, then you'll do -3, or I'm sorry, 5 minus 6, which would be -1. So we get 8 as our slope. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, are we good there? Are we study for the next few minutes, or do you want to cover the last couple questions? Cover the last couple questions? Okay. Let's see, that was 17, 18. Our last couple are, oh, we're done.